It's Michelle.
Good morning.
Okay, so I am going to call the meeting to order, and can we take attendance, please? Can any committee members please announce yourself?
Hi, this is Ann O'Gore.
Stephanie Turman. Michelle Smianik.
Jen Liptak here.
Are there any other board members present?
Good morning, Lori Mizgorski.
Hi, Jen Liptak.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, our first order of business is approval of the minutes. Are there any questions or corrections to the minutes from last meeting? Nope. Okay, can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. And so our order of business today is a resolution that is about major service changes, equity analyses for the Title VI program. And I am going to pass it over to Ellie Newman to present. Ellie?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Ellie Newman. I'm the section manager of service development here at Port Authority, and I'm going to be running through our Title VI analysis for some pandemic-related service changes. So as you most likely know, Title VI is our federal statute that governs how we serve low-income and minority communities and make sure that we provide equitable service to all communities. So this comes into effect whenever we make a service change that affects more than 30% of service hours or mileage. In November of 2020, we put in 20 major service changes that we considered to be temporary and just responding to the very changed ridership conditions due to the pandemic. So some of them were reductions and some of them were additions. At this point, they have all lasted more than 12 months. So while we still consider them to be temporary, the FTA now considers them permanent. So that's why we had to do a Title VI analysis to fully understand what the impacts of them have been. So looking first at the additions. So during the pandemic, before we had vaccines and everything, we put into effect some capacity restrictions. So we only allowed about 30% of seated capacity onto our vehicles. And at the same time, we had some routes still had fairly high ridership. And so this caused persistent crowding, especially for routes that only came once every hour. You could only put 15 people on them, and it was very restrictive for riders. So we looked at the routes that had most problems with this, and in some cases doubled service, or certainly significantly increased on many routes. 3 of these were the 1, the 12, and the 59. All of these, in many cases, were hourly routes that maybe went to 30-minute service or 40-minute service. We also did a major service change on the P68, extending that to Forbes Hospital. And we did a service addition to the red line. We actually coupled that with a decrease on the blue line. So that one is a little bit different, because it essentially provides the same level of service on the rail overall, but just kind of shifting from one route to another. In terms of reductions, we made 15 reductions on mostly commuter routes. These routes, in some cases, went down as much as 90% drop in ridership, and we were still running normal level service, which really just didn't make sense for us to do. So we went through and found the route that had the biggest decrease in ridership and cut those routes back quite a lot. We needed to do this so that we could justify, so that we could put those additions onto those routes that I mentioned before, and also because we were having significant out of service. We couldn't support the manpower needs with all of our, COVID-related quarantining and whatnot. So there were many reasons why we needed to do these reductions here. As a group, the reductions did not have a negative impact, but there were some potential for harm on the individual routes. So I'm going to go through those. Those were the 58, the 65, the P12, the P7, and the P76. This one, I just wanted to show you a little bit of an analysis of the correlation between the ridership change and the service changes that we made. So this is a scatter plot that shows the percent drop of ridership and the respective service cut or increase. So on the left-hand side, all of those dots are those commute routes where we reduce service. And so you can see there's kind of a line that shows what we were really trying to basically adjust service to meet the current demand. On the right-hand side, you can see that the routes where we added service, we didn't have much of a ridership drop compared to pre-pandemic. And so that's why we needed to make those additions. So next we'll look at the route by route analysis. This one is Route 58. This is largely a university route. About 40% of our riders use a UPass on this route. And so when the schools shut down, we really didn't have much ridership here. This one was flagged because it does have a low income population that it serves in terms of its area. So this one was a bit higher than the rest of the county low income population. So that's why this one was flagged. The 65 is a somewhat infrequent commute route between Squirrel Hill and downtown. This one had a huge ridership drop of about 85%. Just tracking it throughout the whole pandemic, we have seen almost no ridership return on this route, but it does serve some low-income areas in Uptown and South Oakland, so that's why this one showed up on our report as well. The P12 is a commute route that comes from Plum, Monroeville area, and then gets on the highway and then the busway into downtown. This one is potentially a concern because it has a fairly large unique service area. That means that there's no other route that serves some of these areas. So if there's a major cut, that means people don't have much option to get some other route. And this one was flagged due to the potential impacts on minority populations. The P7 is a route that starts in McKeesport, it goes through Duquesne, and then gets on the busway into downtown. This one, I think, was the only one that was caught due to minority and low-income potential impacts. However, this route has no unique area whatsoever. So this is a route that, even if this particular one was cut back, everyone that lives in the service area still has at least one other route within walking distance that they can take. The P76 has a somewhat similar service area to the P7, but it kind of goes the other way around McKeesport. This one was also flagged due to potential impacts to minority populations, and it does have a much larger unique service area. However, we still are seeing very low ridership. It's still about 75% down from pre-pandemic ridership. So individually, the service reductions that we just went through could have potential impacts on minority or low-income populations. If you look at the whole reductions as a whole, they don't show a negative impact, however, but it certainly tells us that we should continue to monitor the ridership on these routes and look towards finding a way to return them if we can. Mm-hmm. So to that end, we will be holding a public hearing in January to get comments and feedback from the public, and that will use that feedback to guide what we do in 2022 in terms of service changes.
Thank you very much, Ellie.
So at this point, I'd like to ask for a resolution for the authorization to approve the Title VI analysis and public comment period for the service changes. So this Title VI report is going to be in our triennial report that we submit to the FTA every 3 years. We are planning to enter a 60-day public comment period soon after this, this month to get feedback on these changes. And we'll be hosting public open house events to get feedback directly from the public. This resolution would approve the Title VI report and authorize Port Authority to proceed with the public comment period. At this point, I'd be happy to take any questions.
So can we get a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Second.
is there any discussion?
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from committee members? Comments or questions from board members? Are there any comments or questions from stakeholders? Okay, with that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. That is all we have on the agenda for today. Short meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
It was the
we'll just-
fastest stakeholder relations meeting ever.
Hey, I get it done.
We'll give everybody a chance to change their papers around, and we'll start the finance committee in just a second. Okay, I will call to order the finance committee for November 10th, 2021. I'll start with a roll call. Board member Liptak,
Here.
Representative Davis,
Here.
board member DeLon. Okay. Any other board members? Can you announce yourselves?
Michelle Smianik.
Stephanie Terman.
Lori Mizgorski. Okay. Our first agenda item for today is approval of the minutes of the October 21st Finance Committee meeting. Did anyone have any comments, questions, or revisions of those minutes? Okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Let's see, our only resolution today is authorization to adopt the amended FY 2022 operating budget, file amended state operating application, and execute local match certifications. Pete.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and other board members. So we have a resolution to amend the fiscal 22 operating budget and file amended state operating applications and also local match assurances. In early October, we were notified by Penndot that we were going to get an additional $5.86 million in state operating assistance. This will require approximately a $956,000 increase in local match assistance from Allegheny County. Penndot does require that we revise our 22 operating budget to reflect that higher state operating assistance and local match amounts, which are included in Exhibit A. Penndot is also requiring that there a passage of a operating and capital budget local match assurance, which are Exhibits B and C, that the other properties within, transit properties within the state have been required to submit, and now they're requiring that of us as well. In addition to those changes in the operating assistance amounts for fiscal 22 operating budget, we are making revisions to the retiree health care to reflect a premium holiday from Highmark for the month of December, which wasn't included in the original budget. And then we're also making a change to preventive maintenance capitalizations. So in the aggregate, the 2022 operating budget totals $493,690,000 $1,076, which is reduction from the original operating budget of $494,355,837. Can I answer any questions in regards to that resolution?
I don't think I have any. Any committee members have any questions?
No.
Any questions from other board members? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to forward this resolution to the board for next week?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, so our final agenda item, we're also short today, is a review of the October 2021 financial statements.
So for the month of October, much like the earlier months in the fiscal year, our total revenues, the total was $5.38 million, which is $3.42 million below budget. For the fiscal year through October, our total revenues are $19.41 million, which is $15.52 million below budget. And we will do ARPA invoicing to make up for that shortfall. Lower passenger revenues are the major contributor to these revenue results. Our passenger revenues were $3.24 million below budget for the month, and our $15.22 million below budget for the fiscal year. As I've mentioned at the couple of the earlier meetings, we're undergoing a spot audit of our CARES invoicing, and I'm happy to report that I think we're about a week or 2 weeks away for that to be finished. So once we get the all clear, we will resume invoicing for the federal stimulus dollars to make up for the revenue shortfall. Total expenses continue the positive trend as in earlier months. For the month of October, our total expenses were $3.48 million below budget, and year-to-date $19.6 million below budget. Some of the primary contributors to that, our salary and wages were $2.2 million below budget due to vacant positions, which also impacts the employee benefits, which are $3.2 million below budget. And another major contributor was our materials and supplies were $4.7 million below budget, primarily due to lower material and reconditioned unit expense. From a subsidy standpoint for the month, we were $2.18 million under budget due to a timing issue with state operating assistance and the aforementioned delay in federal stimulus invoicing. Our subsidy for the fiscal year is $18.74 million under budget, and that is due to the delay in ARPA invoicing that I mentioned. From a year-over-year perspective, the good news is the total operating income is $5.8 million higher than last fiscal year, which is about a 42% increase from last fiscal year, which is good news. From some of the passenger revenue perspectives, we're seeing a large increase in monthly pass sales. And also to the contract services revenue, which is the revenue that we get from the universities. That's $1.27 million higher on the contracted services. Total expense is $2.7 million higher than last fiscal year, and that's due to higher wages and salaries, employee benefits, and access expense. Our total subsidy for year over year is $5.2 million lower than last fiscal year, and that's principally due to a reduction in preventive maintenance invoicing. Our operating reserves, we began the month of October with $127.6 million in operating reserves, and we had cash inflows from passenger revenues and various grant payments of $44.2 million. We had cash outflows of $35.9 million for payroll, benefits, and various services. So the authority ended the month with $135.9 million in operating reserves. Can I answer any questions?
I don't have any questions. Anyone from the committee have questions?
No.
No.
Anyone from the board, other board members?
No questions.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. That was our last agenda item. So we will, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. We stand adjourned and we'll, oh, thanks, Jen. We will see you in January. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Hey, just a heads up for the for the next committee. I'm going to have to jump off. I have a hearing that I have to attend, so please excuse me.
Thanks, Austin. Thanks for the heads up. Have a good day. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get ready for the Performance Oversight Committee. And so we're going to do a quick roll call of committee members. Lori, are you still here with us? Representative?
Yes, yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. These buttons are rough. Plus, we're starting a little earlier for performance oversight this morning. So take a moment, gather all your papers, and I see that we have, is that Tony Trone up there at the podium already?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Give us a second here. Do I have any other board members that are on the call? Please state your name.
I broke the camera.
Too handsome.
Okay, great. We're picking up a lot of noise that's here, so I'm not sure if you can still hear me or not. We're going to move forward now to approval of our meeting minutes from our October 21st meeting. So do we have any corrections or anything necessary for our board minutes for October 21st? If I have no changes or corrections, then Lori, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'm going to second that. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Moving forward then with our proposed resolutions. Good morning, Mr. Trona. You are ready to go.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, I am. Good morning, board members. I have 4 items for your review and presentation to the full board for approval. All of our bids were publicly advertised and our e-business documents were distributed. The first is extended glass for operators barriers. We had 2 firms accept our invitation. 2 bids were received for the extended glass for the operator barriers. So our recommendation that the contract be awarded to the low bidder, which was Aftermarket Parts Company, LLC, in the amount of $689,795. There's been no recent purchase of this item. However, the staff has determined the price to be fair and reasonable. Basically, as it's shown in that picture, the extended glass goes around the existing barrier for added protection for the driver for COVID-related issues. The second is EGR coolers, Cummins engines. 4 firms accepted the invitation. 4 bids were received for these coolers in Cummins engines over a 1-year period. Our recommendation that the contract be awarded to the low bidder, which was Cummins Inc., estimated amount of $157,267.55. This price represents a 3% increase from the previous contracted price for these items over a year ago. The third, bus HVAC return filters. 4 firms accepted the invitation. 3 bids were received for these filters over a 2-year period. So our recommendation that the contract be awarded to Thermo King of Pittsburgh, estimated amount of $178,386.80. There's been no recent purchase of these items. However, the staff has determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable. Number 4 is brake drums, Coach. 7 firms accepted our invitation. 7 bids were received for these brake drums over a 1-year period. It's our recommendation that the contract be awarded to the low responsive bidders. Aftermarket Parts Company, LLC, 1 item, estimated amount of $63,428. Midwest Bus Corporation, 3 items, estimated amount $80,740. This price represents a 28% increase from the previous contracted price for these items 2 years ago. We've seen dramatic increases in steel prices since March 2020. The price has gone up significantly. The major contributor in this 28% increase is obviously in the steel drums. It's the steel content. So we are hoping to see a relief in that area over the research I've seen in March of 23, 24. So right now we're going to have, and also there's also supply chain issues with this item as well. So we're hoping the supply chain doesn't hurt us too much on this, but the price increase is there, and we've had 7 bids on this, so we feel confident that this is the market price we'll be paying for brake drums now. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Trona. Any questions from committee members?
No, but thank you for your report.
Any questions from any other board members for Mr. Trona? Okay, hearing none. Lori, could I have a motion to approve to take this to full board?
So moved.
I'm going to second that. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Trona. Thanks for the very thorough explanation on this price increases also.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item B, authorization to enter into an agreement with UPMC Benefits Management Services, doing business as UPMC Work Partners. We have Mr. Mike Setra this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Madam Committee Chairwoman and committee members. This first resolution I have for the committee's consideration this morning would authorize Port Authority to enter into an agreement with UPMC Work Partner for the provision of managed care program services to Port Authority. On August 5th, 2021, Port Authority issued RFP number 2112 to identify a firm to provide Port Authority with the managed care program services, which include comprehensive program management and support for both employee occupational and non-occupational injuries, a very critical requirement under our self-insured workers' compensation program. It includes a variety of services under this managed care umbrella, including treatment facility services for injuries, on-site medical case management, and vocational and rehab management services to help employees recover and return either to their prior jobs or potentially alternative jobs, depending on the nature of the injury. On the September 7th, 2021 due date for proposals, one proposal was received from UPMC Benefits Management Services, doing business as UPMC Work Partners. Our procurement team, in consultation with our user group, conducted a single proposal survey, and respondents indicated they did not submit a proposal because they did not have the resources either to directly provide or manage a team of subcontractors to provide the managed care program services. We also identified at least 3 firms that appeared to have the ability to do so, but these firms are not currently providing managed care program services in the Pittsburgh market. So we were very comfortable moving ahead, evaluating the single proposal received. Following completion of that survey and the committee's evaluation of the proposal, and as detailed more fully in your resolution summary, UPMC Work Partners was recommended for award of this contract. They have vast experience with managed program services, not only for Port Authority, but City of Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, and the Turnpike Commission. They also provided a solid project work plan, experienced key personnel, and proposed 6 subcontractors to fulfill up to 30% of the contract services, including 2 certified diverse business firms, Everest Care Management and Medical Management and Review Services. We're anticipating them doing probably 5 to 10% of the work per year on the contract, which is consistent with historical utilization for these services under the prior contracts. The proposed pricing was also determined to be fair and reasonable and consistent with Port Authority's independent cost estimate completed by the user group. Proposed agreement would be for an initial term of 5 years with 2 optional extension years at a total not to exceed amount of $4,657,143,143. That cost includes what we estimate our yearly average base services will be. We also are budgeting for upgrades to our electronic claims management system, Riskmaster, and the managed care umbrella, as I noted earlier, now also includes the vocational and rehab services. So we're budgeting for those costs under this program as well. So subject to any member questions, I would respectfully request that the committee recommend this resolution to the full board for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Cetro.
Mhm.
Representative Gorski, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Any questions from other board members for Mr. Cetro? Okay, great. Moving along. If Lori, I could have a motion to move the resolution forward.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Mike, up with the next item, authorization to adopt and implement financial year 22-23 internal audit work plan.
Yes, thank you. This second resolution I have for the committee's consideration this morning would authorize the adoption and implementation of Port Authority's FY 2022-23 internal audit work plan. In accordance with the board adopted internal audit department charter, our internal audit department staff under direction of our director, Hadiza Buhari, have conducted audit and oversight activities for various Port Authority business and financial control processes over the past several years via the adoption and implementation of 18-month internal audit work plans. And that charter is Exhibit A to your resolution this morning is a copy of the proposed work plan, and the charter is on pages 14 to 15 of that work plan. To continue these efforts and further strengthen transparency and fiscal oversight of Port Authority's business processes and functions, our internal audit department staff, with input from management personnel, have prepared the 18-month work plan that again is attached as Exhibit A to your resolution in their packets this morning. This would be for the period January 1, 2022, so the last 6 months of FY 2022, and then the entirety of FY 2023 through June 30th of 2023. Page 8 in the work plan identifies the audits that would be performed based on our estimated amount of auditor hours available based on our current staffing. And this includes audits in progress from the prior expiring work plan, audits required by law, regulation, or authority policy, including our Buy America pre and post delivery Buy America audits for rolling stock purchases, and our annual plan element audits for our safety and security plans. Audits based upon risk assessment or management request, and other direct audit activities such as training or special investigations or projects assigned by the CEO or other senior management as needs may arise during the next 18 months. Again, this resolution would adopt and authorize the internal audit department and management to move forward with implementing the work plan. Material amendments to the plan would be reserved to the board, but management would have the ability to make minor amendments such as tweaking the scope of an audit topic during the course of completion of the work plan. And of course, as audits are completed, they will continue to be presented to the board upon their completion. Madam Committee Chairwoman, subject to any questions that committee members may have, I'd respectfully request that the committee recommend this resolution to the full board for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Cetro. Any questions? Representative Gorski?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
I have no questions either at this point. Any board members have questions for Mr. Cetro on this item?
No questions.
Hearing none, can I have a motion to move this forward to the board meeting?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, Mr. Cetro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving forward with item D, authorization to extend and amend agreement with commercial consulting to provide drug and alcohol compliance program services with Ms. Inez Colon. Good morning. How are you?
Just fine, thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. The resolution before you is seeking authorization to extend and amend an agreement with commercial consulting to provide drug and alcohol compliance program services. In accordance with the board of adapted procurement policy and procedures for competitive negotiations and professional services. Port Authority issued RFP 1708 and authorized the award to Commercial Consulting to provide said services. And by services, I mean medical review officer, the substance abuse professional, consulting, mobile collectors, and laboratory under that umbrella. The agreement, when issued, had a 3-year term with 2 optional years, and in November 2020, the board approved the exercise of the first option year, extending the agreement to February 28, 2022, with no increase to the not to exceed amount of the agreement. To date, the authority has concluded that Commercial Consultant is providing satisfactory services, and we feel it is in our best interest that we once again exercise the second option year, extending the agreement to February 28, 2023. In this case, we are asking to increase the not to exceed amount to $387,209.80, which means that we would be extending the not to exceed amount to $1,714,209.80. Unless there are any questions, I respectfully request that this resolution be brought to the entire board. Are there any
Thank you.
questions?
Any questions from committee members?
No, thank you.
Any questions from board members?
No.
Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to move this forward to the whole board.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Cologne. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Moving along to item D, authorization to award contracts for general construction, mechanical construction, electrical construction on the Manchester and Pitt Tower HVAC and electrical upgrades. Mr. Ed Bills, Eric Bills. All right, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you all? This
Good.
first resolution seeks authorization to award construction contracts to perform HVAC and electrical improvements at our Pitt Tower Security and Police Building, as well as the Manchester main shop. At the Pitt Tower, I show a picture here of the roof. In this project, will replace rooftop HVAC equipment, as well as controls, generator, and a transformer. At the Manchester main shop, we will be performing replacement of HVAC boxes, ductwork, and associated controls. This existing equipment ranges up to 40 years old, so it's definitely due for replacement at this point, where service and maintenance and upkeep and even finding parts to upkeep the equipment are difficult. This new equipment will provide more energy efficient operation and savings to the Port Authority. Project duration for this will be 10 months after we issue notice to proceed to the contractors. There's 2 contracts. General construction would be awarded to Mercedes Construction Company in the amount of $311,692. And for the mechanical contract, award would be issued to WG Tomco in the amount of $1,753,650. And for, I'm sorry, I mentioned there's 3 contracts here. The third will be electrical, and that's to Merit Electrical Group, Inc. in the amount of $561,000. We received 2 bids for the general, 3 bids for the mechanical, and 5 bids for the electrical. So we had good participation in this solicitation. Pending any questions, I would respectfully request moving this resolution to the full board for award.
Thank you, Mr. Bilski. Any questions from committee members?
No, thank you.
Any questions from board members? Hearing no questions, could I have a motion to move this forward to the full board?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Bilski. Moving forward with item F, also with Mr. Bilski, authorization to award contracts for general construction, HVAC, and electrical construction for the Monongahela Incline Phase 2 Rehabilitation Project.
Thank you. This resolution would seek authorization to award 3 construction contracts for making improvements to the Monongahela Incline. Improvements would include architectural station upgrades and replacing the roof at the lower station. As well, it would include electrical upgrades, HVAC upgrades, new station door operators, and LED track lighting. The project would include painting and repair of the incline bridge structure, as well as replacement of the drive machinery. Pictured there is the lower station of the incline car coming into the station. This project would, while the project itself would be a 12-month project, it will involve a service shutdown from August 1st through November 11th of next year, during which time we will provide bus shuttles to service our patrons for that period of time. The contracts for this, for the general award, would be made to Mercedes Construction Company in the amount of $5,477,777. Single bid was received for that. Due to the specialty nature and complexities of the incline construction, we did not have as many contract interested bidders, but Mercedes has worked in the past on inclines and is well apt to perform here. For the HVAC contract, WG Tomco, in the amount of $246,700. And for the electrical contract, Westmoreland Electrical Services LLC, in the amount of $2,558,000. And for that, 6 bids were received for that electrical package. Pending any questions, I respectfully request the committee move this to the full board for award.
Thank you, Mr. Bilski. Any questions from committee members?
No, thank you.
Questions from board members? Hearing none, could I have a motion to move this forward to the full board?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Continuing with Mr. Bilski, authorization to award contracts for general construction and electrical construction for the subway station escalator rehabilitation project.
Thank you. This resolution would seek authorization to this resolution seeks authorization to award 2 construction contracts for the replacement of 9 existing escalators at our subway stations at Wood Street, Steel Plaza, and First Avenue. The existing escalators in this picture shows the escalators at the mezzanine going up to the street level at Wood Street. These escalators are of a retail grade. They're not as rugged, and with dealing with the elements that we have, they just need a lot of service due to various factors there. They're about 20 years old. The new escalators in this procurement would be more robust, apt transit grade, designed for improved reliability. The construction for this project would be in 2 phases. First phase, we would work on the Wood Street and First Avenue stations, and then the second phase would be Steel Plaza. The general contract would be awarded to Mercedes Construction Company in the amount of $13,245,813. For this project, we received 3 bids. I would note that the low bid was non-responsive on this solicitation due to submitting qualifications with their bid. It was deemed both technically and legally non-responsive and not compliant with our specifications. For the electrical contract, the award would be to Merit Electrical Group, Inc. in the amount of $262,723, and 3 bids were received for this package. The project overall duration for this will be 2 years. Pending any questions, I respectfully request the committee move this resolution to the full board for award.
Thank you, Mr. Bilski. I have no questions. Any questions from other committee members?
No.
No.
Questions from board members?
I have just a quick question, just out of curiosity, like one individual escalator, like how long is it out of service when you're taking it out and putting it back in?
Well, the escalators, the time frame for the overall project, a lot of it is fabrication of the actual escalators, which will take, you know, up to 6 to 8 months to actually fabricate. The downtime will involve, it's roughly 4 months time to pull escalators out, rebuild them, and then replace them and get them back in the service. So we're going to obviously minimize as much as we can the downtime. We're going to do as much work as we can with pre-work that we can do without shutting the escalators down, and then only have them shut down for the minimum amount of time we need to so as not to inconvenience our patrons.
And the station elevators will be working?
And the station, yeah, exactly. The anticipation here is the station elevators will be closely monitored and kept in service for those that have that need, as well as obviously the stairs for people that can use those. So we're going to make sure that, you know, we have accessibility for the patrons during this construction time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. That was a great question. That was mine coming up too. Great for those mornings when I'm really tired and I'm up the stairs.
Incline as well. Incline as well.
Excuse me, the question.
Yeah, I was just asking, as it relates to Ann's question, is the time of praying for the incline? So
yeah,
we already passed that.
Yeah, that's okay. The incline is, well, it's shut down. It'll be August 1st through November 11th of next year. With this award and the construction contract starting later this year, once we issue notice to proceed. The time frame may be we may have work going on at one of the stations during while the incline, but it may overlap a little bit during that time.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to make a motion to move this forward to the full board. Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Bilski. Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Our final resolution, and then we do have a report that's coming up from Penndot, so I don't want everyone to run away. But our final resolution this morning is from Mr. Jim Ritchie for authorization to extend and amend agreements with Greenlee Partners, LLC, and Buchanan Ingersoll and Rooney PC to provide legislative consulting services. Good morning, Mr. Ritchie. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm presenting a request to extend and amend our legislative consulting services agreements with Greenlee Partners and Buchanan Ingersoll and Rooney. The board first approved the initial agreements with these firms in January of 2019. And the initial terms at that time were to cover 3 years with a total not to exceed amount of $800,000 $188,000 total. The agreements also included the ability to extend the services through 2 option years. The initial 3-year term will expire in March of next year, March 31st, 2022. And the authority wishes to exercise the first option year on both agreements. This would extend both agreements to March 31st of 2023 and increase the total not to exceed amount of the agreements combined by $249,206. This would increase the previous total not to exceed amount of the agreements from $888,000 to $1,137,206. I respectfully request the committee's approval of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Questions from committee members?
Yes, I have a question. As a legislator, should I be voting on this particular issue, even though I have no, financial interest in this situation? Is it appropriate for me to be voting on this?
Representative Muskorski, this is Sandy Garfinkel,
Yes.
Acting Board Solicitor. I don't see a problem with you voting on moving this to the board for full approval. This would impact, I think, you not in any particular way aside from any other government or legislative official. And so I don't see that there's a conflict of interest issue here. And again, this is just to move it to the board before formal action is taken. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Garfinkel. Barring any other questions, I will make a motion to move this forward to the full board. And could I have a second for this motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gorski. Motion carried. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, carry the full board for a vote for next Friday. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you.
Yep.
Moving on to item 4 on our agenda will be our Penndot Rail Transit Safety Review Program presentation. And we have Penndot representatives here giving us the report this morning. So who do we have that's going to give the report?
Good morning, Madam Committee Chairwoman Mike Setcher here. Just going to do a brief intro. As you know from prior years, we have a very close collaborative relationship with PennDOT's Rail Transit Safety Review Program. In the room here with us this morning, we do have Chief Porter and our Chief Safety Officer, Bert Jennings. Not only in case there's some questions that they would need to chime in on, but also just to recognize them as our key liaisons with PennDOT's State Safety Oversight Program. And I just want to introduce Elizabeth Beth Bonini. She is our the division chief for PennDOT State Safety Oversight Program. So I believe Beth will be doing an intro, and she'll be joined by April Dorchak, who is with Transportation Resource Associates, who is PennDOT's safety consultant, works with them to manage and oversee the program statewide. So with that brief introduction, I will turn it over to Beth and April and thank them for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Setcher. Thank you. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you so much to everyone here today. And again, thank you for Bert and for Chief Porter and all of their coordination and collaboration and in making sure that we have a good working relationship with the Port Authority when it comes to state safety oversight. That is one of the keys to the success that we have in Pennsylvania. And I know that there are a lot of states, my colleagues in other states, that are pretty jealous of the type of relationship that we have with the entities that we oversee. So if we could go to the next slide real quick, just a quick agenda. We're going to get into a little a bit of a deeper dive than what we've done in the past. In the past, when we've presented to you, we've done more of an oversight or an overview of what state safety oversight is, and maybe didn't touch as hard into the key elements of what we're doing and what we're finding. So we really wanted to dive a little bit deeper in today's presentation. But if there is anyone new or you're unfamiliar with state safety oversight or would like more information, we're happy to answer those questions or sidebar and do a separate presentation on the program. So with that said, we'll go to the next slide. So something that is in Mike's introduction of me today, it's a different introduction. He introduced me as the division chief of state safety oversight. So earlier this year, Penndot did a whole reorganization and for the first time ever created an entire area dedicated to state safety oversight. And I think that is huge in just showing how the department's commitment and emphasis on safety. So I have two positions that are underneath me, and fingers crossed, as you all know how difficult it is filling positions. Hopefully we're going to get those filled very soon. We just went through some great interviews and we're hoping to have those filled very soon. FTA, as we audit Port Authority and the other rail transit agencies in Pennsylvania, the Federal Transit Administration audits us and make sure that we are carrying out our state safety oversight program within the federal regulatory guidelines. So we were audited in June, and we're still waiting on that final report, but just on the feedback and observations that they provided us during that report, we think we did a good job, but we're still waiting to see it in writing. Procedures and standards, that is our guiding document that we provide to the rail transit agencies. It's a federal requirement that we put out these procedures and standards. And I think since the inception of our program, we haven't just put out procedures and standards and expected any of the rail transit agencies just to take these and just do what you're told. We've actually created a collaborative effort where we've developed our procedures and standards and really asked for feedback from the rail transit agencies on those standards. So if there's something that we put in there that either they don't understand or the implementation of something could be done in a different way, that we could make certain adjustments. We have done a very significant development of these and update of these procedures and standards. And actually, Bert, you'll be excited. They should be out. My goal is today. So we have had final approval on those. And they're really significant because as we are all transitioning to the new federal legislation, which has taken time, we have made some major shifts in those procedures and standards. I had some of my peers in other states review those procedures and standards. We took input from the FTA, especially during the audit that they did of us, just to make sure that if there was anything from that audit that needed to update our procedures and standards, we did that. We had a whole separate consulting firm come in and look at our entire program, actually. And our procedures and standards was one of those things, just to say, really a pulse on how we're doing. And again, having that independent review. I know earlier in one of the committee meetings, there was an approval of an internal audit program. You know, this was our internal audit. How, from a whole another entity, how are we doing? So we took those opinions and those comments and incorporated them. And then we just took lessons learned and best practices from the industry and also incorporated those on top of the comments that we got from the RTAs that we oversee. So we're a little bit late in getting them out this year, although we did start, I think, April, in March or April, I think we started this process, but we started a long time ago, but I think at the end of the day, taking that time will give us all a better document to work from. So that will be coming out. So folks should be seeing that today. Hours of service, we wanted to commend Port Authority for working with your union and implementing an hours of service standard. I know that there's been something in place on the bus side for years, but you really worked hard and built something in on the rail side too. And I know that that just went into effect. I think it was this month. So thank you so much for taking that leadership and making something happen with hours of service on the rail side too. That is absolutely huge, and it was a huge win for the entire rail transit industry in Pennsylvania. So we're really proud of you, and you should be proud of yourselves. COVID-19, I know that Bert is giving us continuous updates regarding how the agency is responding to the COVID-19 epidemic. I know that there have been a lot of efforts to get folks vaccinated and different incentives that you have put in place. So we appreciate all of your support for in the SSO program, especially during everything that's going on. And again, our deepest thoughts and sympathies to anyone that has had to endure either personally having COVID-19 or having to have loved ones that had COVID-19. So, our hearts go out to everyone, but we just thank you for continuing with the safety program and continuing safety at the forefront, even while responding to the pandemic. As far as grade crossings and GIS, what we've been doing is working with Port Authority, and we created a GIS interactive map of all of the grade crossings for Port Authority. And that just gives us all the ability to see where those grade crossings are, where those projects are taking place on within the system, looking to see if there are any hotspots that we could identify with certain grade crossings. So as you're doing the construction projects, if there are certain hotspots that they're for accidents, that those particular grade crossings maybe get accelerated in the construction phase. And then, and again, it's also looking at, and this is a part of the whole safety management system, that the improvements that you're putting in at grade crossings, are those having the intended effect that you thought they would? So even though the construction might be done and you might have everything done at a particular grade crossing, are you seeing the results that you wanted to see? Are accidents decreasing? So we're also tracking that and working with the Port Authority to track that information. Let's see. Sso Familiarization Training. We have worked with, I think we did between 50 and 60, we had 50 and 60 employees at the Port Authority, including management staff too, go through our RTSRP State Safety Oversight 101 class. And that included the facilities folks, rail maintenance, IT, engineering, maintenance training, internal audit folks, and we're continuing to offer that opportunity for others within the Port Authority. Last is our Incline plane working group. A couple of months ago, I started working with Angel's Flight in California, the Incline plane in Tennessee, the folks in Johnstown with their Incline at Camtran and Port Authority, and putting them together in a monthly working group where Incline planes for passenger rail is really very unique. And I believe these 4 agencies are the only ones that have passenger rail Incline plane overseen by the Federal Transit Administration. So we're pulling folks together from those 4 different areas so they could talk to each other and look at how the different entities are maintaining their Incline. What are some best practices that they're using? Are there ways to potentially have procurement cost savings if they group up together? So so far that has been a huge success, and I thought it was important for this group to know about what Port Authority is participating in regards to that working group as well. Moving on to the next slide, I wanted to briefly talk about SMS implementation. And a part of that SMS implementation is, I know that there was training given to the board by Bert, who is the Chief Safety Officer at the Port Authority. And, you know, again, SMS is Safety Management System, and I'll give you just really quickly. It starts with the center is that safety management policy and having that top-down approach. So you all in this room are participating in the SMS implementation and the SMS development within the Port Authority. The Public Transit Agency Safety Plan for the Port Authority is signed by the Executive Director and the Board of Directors. So that is the core of SMS, which is having that safety management policy. Next is looking at the risk management and how the Port Authority is managing their risks, and then assuring that those risks are being managed appropriately. So putting that safety assurance part in there. And then the last portion of safety SMS is that safety promotion and continuing to promote safety throughout the entire organization. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. There are parts that are already implemented and going strong within the Port Authority, but it is a continuous process to implement that safety management system within an entire organization. So really briefly, Port Authority was undertaking training. They worked with a contractor, K&J, that did SMS training. They are taking and offering opportunities to folks to participate in TSI training for safety. Again, we talked about the SSO 101. We're participating with them and conducting SSO 101 training. And then I already talked about the board training that they've provided to you on what is SMS. As far as safety promotion goes, there's system-wide banners and signage. They have messages on their DIMS boards. So those are, they're trying to get the word out for safety promotion. They implemented a employee safety reporting system. So employees can be anonymous and report near miss or hazard reporting without having any retribution. Again, they could be anonymous, but they could still get their message across. And again, they're continuing with their safety committee meetings. And they have a fix software too that they're also implementing, which is important. As far as trend analysis, and again, that gets to safety assurance. They're looking at the rules compliance, they're looking at their rail car maintenance records and other maintenance trends, just to make sure things that they're putting in place really are being measured and they're being looked at to see if there are any trends. April, I'm going to grab some water. Do you want to pick things up at the Ptasp update?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing also to the SMS implementation. We learned just a few days ago of the safety dashboard that's currently underway as well. That should, you know, once it's implemented, should offer some real-time data to management and employees in the field, and also help with that trend analysis that you were speaking of. Yeah, we can move to the next slide and go through the Ptasp update. So an annual Ptasp update is required by the FTA. Port Authority, we know, has begun the review, but they were waiting on the procedures and standards to be published before finalizing it. And as Beth mentioned, that should go out today or later this week. They've been approved and they're ready to be published. The Ptasp in the coming years, the RTSRP is going to focus more on the safety risk management process, which is a method for identifying, tracking, and reporting of hazards. And it's also a way, to analyze the results for all hazards identified, and that's going to be something we're looking for in the Ptasp as well. And then additionally, after a handful of conversations with our transit agencies regarding the procedures and standards, we've eliminated one of the audit finding categories. And so we're looking to our agencies now to kind of refine their hazard management process a bit in their Ptasp going forward as well.
So really what that means is, instead of, you could be in compliance with your Ptasp, your agency safety plan, but in our prior procedures and standards, we would say, yes, you may be in compliance, but we still want you to do a corrective action plan because there's still a gap that we're seeing. Moving towards SMS, and we're providing that data and information to the transit agencies, and they have to go through their risk assessment and hazard management process to determine if it really is a risk for them. And if it is a risk and it is a hazard, how should it be, how are they going to categorize it? Are they going to take care of it? Or is it, there are some risks and hazards that people are willing to accept because they happen all the time, right? So, but with SMS, we're giving them the data and information, and Port Authority is now analyzing those risks and hazards and making the determination if a corrective action plan should come out of that. So that is a pretty big difference.
Okay, moving on to capital projects and safety certification. So Part 673 requires each transit agency to apply their safety risk management process to all major projects. And while the FTA bases safety certification on a monetary requirement, the RTSRP, we look at it more at significant safety impacts rather than just the kind of a dollar value. And so at times we may require safety certification for other projects that don't hit that FTA threshold. Recently, we've been working with Port Authority during the ATS upgrade project, and we have required formal safety certification for that project. And then we've also spoken with System Safety and Engineering regarding the Monongahela Incline upgrade, which was talked about a little earlier today. We were comfortable without safety certification for this project due to its scope, and then the fact that the engineering group is following the safety risk management process that's outlined in their Ptasp. And then going forward, we'll continue to review the capital program and make sure that we understand the projects that are coming up and ongoing. Getting involved at the onset, just so as not to halt anything down the road that we may feel require safety certification. We can move on to the next slide. Thanks. The Triennial Audit. So 2021 is going to complete the Triennial Audit cycle. So first of all, we want to thank Port Authority, Bert and Chief Porter, and the management teams for continuing to work with us to complete this cycle for safety audits and security audits. After a lot of auditing was put on hold in 2020 due to COVID and other extenuating circumstances, we did manage to, well, we will manage, we have a couple more left, but we will get through the entire cycle. So we do really appreciate that because we know, it was probably a little stressful for these folks, and we really, want to thank you for continuing to work with us and get through this with us. This year, we began focusing on SMS auditing while we continued to go through the remaining elements of the current cycle. And so by doing this, we kind of started laying the groundwork for the new approach to auditing, which will begin next year. This next slide shows the events reported over the past 3 years. And as you can see, they're pretty consistent in 20 and 21, a little down from 2019, which also may be due to some of the lower ridership numbers. We can move to the next slide. The current initiatives and the tracking items on our end, we kind of went through a lot of these already. We mentioned the Ptasp and SMS implementation. Those are some of the big focuses in 2022 and onward. We also talked a bit about the capital projects. We are going to continue to monitor the ATS project for safety certification, especially as the safety certification committee begins. We're also going to continue looking at Port Authority's capital project program. And then we are going to continue to refine our risk-based assessment program in areas such as events, audit findings, corrective actions, and operations reviews to help focus our resources appropriately, and then also help Port Authority identify areas of opportunity as well. And I think that's pretty much all we have for you today. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Yes, I have a question about the safety dashboard. And when do you expect that to be available? Is that only going to be available to employees or people within the Port Authority? Or is this something that anyone will be able to look at? If you could just give a little more information about that, please.
So the safety dashboard is actually a Port Authority initiative, so I'm gonna have to
Oh, okay.
toss that over to those guys to answer.
Okay.
Representative Ms. Gorski, I can
Yeah.
field that one. We are in the early pre-planning stages for developing a safety dashboard. We anticipate, with our ongoing strategic planning efforts, it's going to be a key initiative in the strategic plan. But yes, when it's ultimately rolled out, the end goal would be that it would not only be accessible to management and employees, but also the board, and there also would be some public component to it too. So, but it's still in its infancy as far as development. So we have some frameworking and figuring out what the best technology tools to use, et cetera, are. But it will be a priority for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also wanted to say thank you to Catherine and again to the entire board for supporting safety and and security throughout the Port Authority. It's implementing SMS and creating an agency safety plan is a lot of work, and your support towards those entities within the organization is huge, so they could get this done. And it's really appreciated. We're seeing the support that they're receiving. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Beth and April, for a great report and lots of information on that. Thanks, Mike, for the additional information.
Thank you.
Anyone
Thank you.
questions? April and Elizabeth, thank you so much. Anybody have any final questions for them? Okay, all right. Hearing none, that brings us to the end of our agenda. If we have no other questions, then I'm going to make a motion for us to adjourn. Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. And then
Aye.
thank you very much. We are adjourned, and I believe we are moving on to Gen and Technology.
Oh.
Thanks, everyone.
Do we have a packet for Jim? I don't see it.
Hello.
Oh.
I'll give everyone a minute.
Someone see
Technology Committee, we do have a couple bids and then a presentation, so if
Okay,
everyone's
back.
ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm going to have to log off right before 10 o'clock.
Okay. Well, you
Thank
know
you.
me, I like to move through pretty quickly, so
Okay.
let's get through the business that requires votes, so then we can allow for the presentation to occur, and if Representative Skorsky needs to chime off for that, then it'll allow her time to do that. So I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. The roll call, it's me, and then Lori, you're here, correct?
Yes.
So there's any other non-committee members would like to identify themselves, please?
Stephanie Turner.
Michelle, Stephanie, and Ann. Okay, thank you very much. So the first order of business. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. So the first order of business, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the September meeting. Lori, may I have a motion?
So moved.
And I'll second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tony, will you be presenting the bids for us?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right, please proceed and thank you.
Thank you. I have 3 items for your review and presentation to the full board for approval. The first is Cohesity Network Area Storage and Smart Files. 2 firms accepted the invitation, 2 bids were received for this product. The recommendation is that the contract be awarded to the low responsive bidder, which was AEC Group, LLC, an amount of $359,812.12. There's been no recent purchase of this item. However, the staff has determined that the price was fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Number 2 is ticket vending machine heaters. This is a sole source procurement. In March of 2009, the authority awarded a contract to automated fare collection to Scheidt Bachmann, the contractor. This system includes various fare-related equipment and supporting software, including our ticket vending machines. Over the course of the operation of this equipment, it was discovered that during the consecutive days of single-digit cold temperatures, the ticket vending machines that were in areas that were exposed to the elements, extreme cold, experienced malfunctions and sometimes became fully inoperable. The single heater unit that was specified in the original contract and contained in TVMs was determined to be insufficient. The authority worked with the contractor to determine that installing an additional secondary heater within the TVM machines would improve operation and durability in the extreme cold. Additional heaters would be added to the 60 TVMs that are located in areas fully exposed or partially to outdoor weather conditions. The TVMs were designed by the contractor, and certain proprietary operational circuits supporting software and control various operations of the TVM, including the heater circuits. Accordingly, the TVMs require specific skills and working knowledge to install the heaters properly. The contractor is the only qualified vendor with proprietary ownership interest that can design, supply, and install these additional heaters. At this time, the staff is recommending that the authority enter into a sole source agreement with Scheid Bachman to design and provide all parts, labor, and installation of the additional heaters. So it's our recommendation that the contract be awarded to Scheid Bachman USA in the amount of $100,533 for the system design, heaters, and installation. The staff has determined that the pricing to be fair and reasonable. Number 3, police body cameras, tasers, state schedule. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of General Services has a program awarded as a less lethal and duty gear contract to Axion Enterprises, the authority which is to make a purchase under the same current terms and conditions as the DGS schedule. The contract is effective through May 30th of 2023, and the authority will purchase new body cameras and replacement tasers with a maintenance and replacement subscription for these items. So our recommendation that the contract be authorized under the same terms and conditions as Pennsylvania DGS to Axion Enterprises in the amount of $544,325. There's been no recent purchase of this item. However, the staff has determined the prices to be fair and reasonable. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Tony. Is there any questions? Laura, do you have any questions related to the bids as presented?
No, thank you.
Do other board members have any questions related to the bids as presented?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you very much. I would ask for a motion to approve the bids as presented by the authority.
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Tony, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation. Jeff, who's doing it? Are you doing it or are you assigning staff?
I'm definitely doing it. My name's Jeff Nichols. I'm the Information Security Manager for the Port Authority of Allegheny County. Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. Next slide, please. One of the primary concerns that we've had, and I think it's been in the news everywhere, is combating ransomware, especially as we're a critical infrastructure company. Our customers rely on us to get them places where they need to go. One of the ways there are 3 primary ways that we've chosen to combat ransomware. The first is multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is something that kind of sits in partnership with passwords, right? So a password is something that you know. When we talk about multi-factor authentication, that's either something that you have or something that you are, right? And so in our case, we're mostly using telephones. So when you sign on to a Port Authority system, periodically during your connection to a Port Authority system, we connect to either your phone, in some cases an application, or in some cases some folks have a hardware key, and that's to ensure that the person who's connected to our system is actually who they say they are, right? Because 1, they know their password, and 2, they have something else that tells us that we know who they are. The second way that we're combating ransomware is we're partnering with a company called KnowBe4 for phishing, training, and testing. And phishing, if you're unfamiliar with it, is when someone maliciously sends an email trying to gather either privileged information or access to a system to which they're not entitled, right? And KnowBe4 provides us with a relatively sophisticated system where we can send test emails that appear to be legitimate but are not, and we can test the Port Authority colleagues' ability to figure out whether an email is malicious or not, right? So we can track whether they're clicking on things they shouldn't click, whether they respond to an email to which they shouldn't have responded, whether they download something or something like that. When folks actually do click through that information and we figure out that an employee has fallen for something, then each and every time they do that, they're assigned remedial training, and that training takes the form of typically a 5-minute video or frankly even a game, right? The goal is not to punish somebody. The goal is to make sure that they're aware so that we ultimately drive down the click-through rate. And the other way that we're combating ransomware is we're using Office 365. Office 365 tracks the logins for all users who are attached to our resources, so we can tell by their geolocation where they're logging in, right? If I see, so my boss is Eric McKibben, if I see Eric McKibben logging on from Estonia, I know that login is not legitimate, and I can block him because his login information is likely compromised. Next slide, please. This last bit is kind of a personal plea to all of you, both board members and anybody else who's attending. Kindly add multi-factor authentication to any of your business accounts or your personal email accounts, right? This is a very common means for attackers to gather either access to your financial resources or access to your emails where you do all your primary business. Oftentimes that can be done through a phone application, text message to your phone, email to a secondary email account, what have you. Second recommendation, again, this is just a personal thing. These are things that we're doing at the Port Authority that I think everybody should implement in their personal life. Use a password manager to manage passwords that you have, right? It's very common for people, because the burden of remembering complex passwords is tough, to reuse passwords. So you have the same email password for your email as you might have for your bank account, for your credit card account. Super, super dangerous, right? So use complex passwords and then rely on computers to do the things that they're good at, which is remembering things that we humans aren't always so good at remembering, right? Couple examples, Chrome, which is a very common internet browser, Microsoft Edge contain integrated password managers. They're good for that purpose. If you don't want to use those integrated password managers, there's some other companies. I just gave you a few names of other companies that make up LastPass, Keeper, Zoho Vault, or Dashlane. And one final recommendation, and again, this is just for people who are using computers at home. If you have a relatively recent computer and you're using Windows 10, I'd suggest using Windows Hello. And what Windows Hello is that makes sign-on for your computer something else other than a password. In that case, in some cases, it's a PIN like a PIN that you'd enter into your phone. In some cases, you'll touch individual parts of a picture that only you would know about. In other cases, it can be facial recognition or sometimes even a hardware key or a fingerprint reader. That really concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Jeff. That was actually quite informative for people even that don't work at the Port Authority. I do appreciate that. So are there any questions of board members? No? Okay.
No.
I know now that I need to make sure that my passwords are a little bit better, so thank you for that.
I know.
So if there's no other questions for the committee, I thank everyone for their participation today. Thank you for the great presentation, and I will adjourn the meeting. And I believe that adjourns all of our committee meetings for today. So thank you to everyone, and we'll see you in January. Have a good day.
Thanks, Ms. Liptak.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.